What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to episode number 64 of Lyon Live here in Football Manager 2019. Hopefully you guys are doing fantastic today. We're back. It's still pre-season, and well, we've got lots of thinking to be doing. You might remember last episode, we made some pretty notable sales, didn't we? Bertrand Traore left us, Olmo left us, and Nkunku, Owusu, Terrier. We had a bit of a culling of the team, which was probably needed. It was probably overdue. And, well, it has left us with a fair bit of money in the bank. £72 million. I did talk about the idea of signing one particular player, Kai Havertz, and I still don't know what to do. And today is going to be a slower episode. It's also going to be slightly shorter. The last few we've gone over the hour mark, which I don't really like to do so often because I realise that to expect people to spend like a 24th of their day listening to me is expecting a little bit much. So we're going to take things a little bit slower, think about them a little bit more. I will also say, apologies for a little bit of a slower stream of Lyon Live episodes just this week. For those of you who don't know, I work for a video game studio. I work for Creative Assembly. We launched a game this week, so it's just been a busy week in general. But I've really been looking forward to just sitting down and continue on playing here. So you guys actually had a lot of comments, and I wish I had the comments up in front of me to kind of check them, but yeah, there were lots of different thoughts, lots of different opinions. It was really interesting to get lots of perspectives. A lot of people telling me, this is the part of an FM save that I kind of struggle with when you're transitioning the squad. And it is a challenging part, and it is going to be difficult. I hope that this year we can do better than last year where we finished third. I know there were some comments saying, Jack, Ogier and some of the other players you demoted down, like bring them in, make them the backups. I'm going to get sacked if I do that this year. My job was under risk at one point during pre-season, not pre-season, towards the end of the season, because we fell short of our expectation of winning the league. I can't play the 15, the 16, the 17-year-olds just for the sake of developing them because, well, with our current squad, it wouldn't make a lot of sense anyway unless we were to sell a load of players. And equally, I quite like my job. So the dilemma that we've got is where do we want to strengthen up? And we talked about it last episode, the fact that Toussaint I'm very, very happy with. Mendy at left back, maybe we could look at some alternative left backs. Obviously we've got Lopez in goal, who's okay. He's won the goalkeeping award for the division the last few years and he is a fan favourite. I don't necessarily feel like we need to replace him. One interesting suggestion that was thrown up, and I hadn't really considered it, and it's kind of planted a seed in the back of my mind was, why don't I go out and get a really experienced striker? Someone who's been there, done it, got the postcard. Obviously, we've got Keane, we've got Maulida, we've got Gabels. I feel like between those three, we've got capable strikers. Obviously, Maulida and Gabels aren't going to be starting a fair bit. So the idea of getting in a striker, maybe an established goal scorer, isn't the most mad idea. Gabels, he only got 15 goals in 32 games last year. Maulida, he got 22 in 34 for Nice the season before last. This most recent year just gone, he got 11. Obviously, Moise Keane was, I don't want to say he was disappointing, but 7 goals in 29. Would like to see a little bit more from him. And we do have plenty of money to spend. I feel like it's worth looking at left backs as a starting point, and then we'll kind of take things from there. Obviously, there's a few different ways I could go about hunting out a left back. If I was playing in my own time, I'd probably spend upwards of kind of 15 hours in pre-season with the Edmonton save that's also been going on, which if you've not watched, I recommend going and checking it out. But with that save, the pre-season took me 12 hours. Normally, I will be really, really methodical, and I do feel like with this series, as much as I can kind of take it at my own pace, it's also worth considering the fact that we do have to get a little bit, through time, I guess. We can't, spend forever doing things. I'm going to look at left backs under the age of 25 and just see who comes up. I should probably also lower the wages that we're looking to pay. I would like someone to compete with Mendy and Moreno. If we were to find a really, really good left back, it would be fantastic. Whether or not that is realistic, I guess we'll find out in due course. I think 60,000 is a good starting point. We're really looking for a striker who hasn't made a big splash yet. A player we could really, get a lot out of. Someone like Jamal Lewis, probably not quite of the calibre we're looking for, but that kind of player, someone who's on the verge of breaking through. Obviously, Ruben Duarte here would not be a bad option from Atleti at all. I guess the question becomes, would he actually be interested in joining us, and are the wages going to be a problem? How does he compare to Moreno? That's probably a good starting point to consider here. See, Moreno's probably better, and Duarte looks pretty good. This is the struggle that I think we're going to have here. Have I had that many scouting assignments set up? No, I should really set up some new assignments. Let's do them. I'm going to go with ongoing, and we're just going to be scouting in Europe, I think, for the most part. And do I want them to just scout anyone? See, I've got enough scouts I can just set a load of them up, scatter fire approach. Hey, go to Europe, tell us what you find. You know, just search the whole of it for players with some good potential, well, good current ability, please. And I know it's not exactly the most, what do you call it? The most, I'm trying to think what the right word for it is. It's not exactly the most, like, filtered kind of way of looking for players, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's going to be worth it, I feel like, for what we might get. I feel like it's also perhaps just worth trying to scout out some really, really good younger talent. So we'll set this scout up here to be looking at players with real potential. How many more assignments have I got? I've got a few more that we can do. You can see some of our scouts here have got kind of scout reports in on players. Someone like Joe Gomez would be pretty good, but the asking price is probably a little bit of a problem. Pepe, if I needed another wide player, could be an option. I mean, debatably, I could bring him in as a striker. A couple of years ago, he showed that he was a 20-goal-a-season player. Thiago Maia also been thrown up at Lille, an interesting option maybe. You can see maybe I've been too harsh with kind of the players that scouts have been looking at. You can see we have looked at potential centre-backs here. Luis Felipe. See, if I was to lose Wallace, Felipe could be a good little signing from Napoli, although he's probably not going to be cheap. Probably not going to be cheap. Although, actually, looking at it here, estimated price in the region of 47.5 million upwards. You can see here, obviously, I've been scouting a few different things, but I'm going to be honest, I kind of forgot I set these up a long time ago. Delict might be an option. I feel like we'd struggle to prime away from Manchester United, especially given his wages. I saw a few people mentioning that as a potential signing last time. We've had a few loan offers. Kone has had loan offers. Rotation option with Socho is an interesting one. I don't really want him to be a rotation option. I'd like him to play regular football, but he is so young that maybe it's just worth loaning him out as part of a rotation. I feel like we shall loan him to Socho, just because I'm biased towards them because I've managed them before in Football Manager. Kone's a good little player though. Will definitely benefit from a loan spell. As you can see here, we've got plenty of our younger players being loaned out. You might remember, including Tizzy, who also looks like he might end up going to Socho. They could be this year's Brest in terms of a team who have a few of our players out on loan. But no, we'll have to see how we get on here. I'm conscious of the fact we've got the Trophy des Champions against PSG coming up. I really don't want to mash continue too quickly here. Let's up the age of the left back just a little bit and just see if there's any alternate players that get thrown up. Obviously, I'm playing with attribute masking off. What I would normally do is, and indeed what I might just do here is I just mass scout players, particularly when you're a bigger club. There's absolutely no reason not to do that. Someone like Kurzawa could be an interesting option. Unfortunately, I feel like he would be more of the kind of backup option rather than the starter for us. How does he compare to Moreno? I guess that's the big question, isn't it? How does he compare to Moreno and Mendy? Compared to Mendy, perhaps a little bit better going forward, but definitely not as good defensively. Of course, Mendy on the verge now, you'd feel like becoming a regular for the France national team. And then if we just compare him to Moreno, again, perhaps a little bit better going forward, but not miles better for the kind of price that we'd probably have to pay for him. Let's up the wages, shall we? Just a little bit. In terms of how much, let's cap it off at 100k. Who is available? Interesting to see that Emerson got picked up from Chelsea for 26.5 million. He played as their regular left back for Atleti this year. He did okay for them as well. See, Jose Gaya might be a shout. He's probably the best of the players that's come onto my radar. He's a very good left back. I've had reasonably good success with him. If we just compare him to Mendy, how do they compare? Helps if I remember my alphabet to find Mendy quickly. Yeah, Jose Gaya might be a shout. I guess the question becomes how much they're going to want for him. He's got 4 years left on his current deal. Minimum release clause is 69 million, so we could hit that. Actually looks like they might ask for a little bit less. Let's try and get some clauses in here. I'm not sure how much he's playing for the Spanish national team. I'm going to offer 40 million and 10 million after 20 international games. Let's include a few more kind of things, shall we? If we win the Champions League, we'll give you 5 million if it happens by the end of the 2023-24 season. 46, 49 with a soft lock. So potential value of 63 million. It's a big deal. A big deal. I feel like if we're going to scout him, I need to make that assignment the priority. I mean, on the face of it, he looks like he'd be a pretty good option for us. But I still would like the scout report. For some reason, I feel like he might be injury prone. He does look good, though. Another option would be someone like Tagliafico. Unfortunately, he's not as good as I feel like he should be and probably will be next year in FM after his campaign with Ajax this year in real life. Let's just create a few more assignments here. I'm going to do what we've just done again in terms of just ongoing in Europe, minimum current ability of good, no particular position. Just throw up some players and then from there we can identify the players who fall within our asking prices. I'd rather them kind of take a broader approach to it all. You can see we've now got 4 of them looking for players. One is looking for younger players. You can see Rablat was scouting the Champions League. These were a few of the players thrown up. Not really anyone in our ballpark, I think it would be fair to say, which is interesting. Let's set up one more of these. I'm going to leave a few of our scouts free because during the kind of course of next year we'll probably assign them to scout specific competitions as well. But I feel like we're at a spot now where it's really tricky because, as I mentioned at the start, we are in a transitional point. I feel like a really good left back is the way to go. Gaya might be that option. You can see players like Sessegnon already moved from Fulham, unfortunately. Otherwise, obviously, he'd be the kind of player you could go for. Someone like Jorge could be pretty good from Monaco. Would they sell him to us? I guess that becomes a question. How does he compare to the other players that we've got? If we just compare him to Moreno here. Not as athletic, but more technically gifted and a bit younger. How long has he been in France for? Has it been long enough to take up nationality? It hasn't, but he's not that far off. 2 years. I guess it's not exactly close. Could go with someone like Digny, who's transfer listed by request. Apparently Monaco are looking at him. We'll keep an eye on him, but I don't feel like he wows me. I feel like the obvious player to go for is the man that we're in for. It is Jose Gaya. But it's a lot of money to pay for a left back who... He isn't the best defensively. He would definitely be we'd be relying on his ability going forward to really shine. Compared to Mendy, I mean, they are a class apart, aren't they? It's what he offers going forward, which is the big difference maker. Mendy a little bit better defensively. He is only 26. It's one of those ones where I feel like the scout report will kind of form whether or not I really think it's worth it. it would be a lot of our transfer budget gone as well. The way we've structured it with, fees over a little bit of time would help us somewhat. The other position we've got to look at is the goalkeeper area, but I don't know if there's necessarily a player here who's going to jump out at me. Obviously, we scouted David Raya before. He's only 25. How does he compare to Lopez in goal for us? See, it's just not really an improvement. Lopez is very, very good. Despite the fact he's only got 3 stars, he is very, very good. Let's just have a look. Are there any good goalkeepers with contracts expiring? I feel like goalkeeper is one of the few positions where I'm less concerned about decline with age. You'll also notice here I'm looking at players with 1 year left on their contract. For those perhaps not familiar with it, basically clubs will be a lot more willing to sell their players with 1 year left on their deal for less. Because they're obviously concerned, like we were with Bertrand Traoré, that they want to get some money rather than none. Mattia Perin could be an option from Juventus. Again, though, I'm not sure if he's really a big upgrade. I mean, he's just not. Lopez is good, isn't he? I feel like we're going to struggle to fill the boots of Lopez with someone significantly better. Are there any particularly good strikers available? Luis Suarez? I feel like the wages would be a problem. Bastos? No, let's not do that. It's a tricky one, isn't it? It's a tricky one. Let's have a look at transfer listed strikers. This is again looking for that, maybe an alternative option to what we've already got. Charlie Austin, Ben Woodburn. Surprised that he's transfer listed. Boulder Keita is also transfer listed by Monaco. He's a good player. I feel like we looked at him last year. You can see he was on loan at Sevilla. He's been on loan the last couple of years and not really shone. How has Ben Woodburn done on this save? He's just not very good. Woodburn sometimes turns out incredible. Similar to Harry Wilson. I'm sure you've encountered both those players this year in FM. They tend to turn out rather good. It's a tricky one. I feel like the striker position is always going to just be a very, very difficult one to replace. Well, not replace, but because we're not replacing anyone, but find a player for like a reasonable cost. We just look here by players that we scouted and are recommended. Karim Adeyemi. That's definitely not how you say his name. What was his estimated cost? 1.7 to 3.4. Why are they selling him so cheap? He looks good. Is he worth a punt? He plays for Salzburg. They've upped the asking price to 22 million since we scouted him. If only we'd scouted him sooner. Jerome Carre, the Regen. He came up before, you might remember, and I was put off by his inconsistency. How much do Auxerre want for him? That's not a lot of money, is it? It's probably worth taking a punt on if we can make it happen. I'm going to throw in some clauses here. I want to make sure we remove and exclude the percentage of next sale. If he plays 30 league games for us, Auxerre, I'll give you 2.5 million, but I want to only pay 2 million initially. How do you feel about that? They love it. I probably could have gone a little bit lower on them there, but that could be a potentially good signing for a player we have scouted quite a lot. Catrone, don't know a great deal about this guy in real life, other than that I know he's seen as kind of a player with some potential. Doesn't look like he's improved a great deal here. I mean, would Gabriel Barbosa be the most crazy of options? We were scouting him, you might remember, before he left Inter to return to Brazil. I mean, do we really need a striker? I guess that's the other question that has to be answered. Do we really need a striker? The other option, of course, would be to just flick through some of the youth teams here in different regions and just see if there's any particularly young, exciting prospects really standing out. The thing is, we have made recent additions in the striker department, including obviously Rodrigo Antonio, who joined us. A player who could probably force his way into the first team this year He's part Spanish, part Brazilian, so he doesn't take up a non-EU player spot. Obviously, we've got Luka Jovic out on loan at Sevilla. The more I think about it, the more I feel like Gaya is the way to go, but beyond him, I'm not going to be able to afford anyone for a crazy amount of money anyway. So maybe it's worth just trying to get Gaya locked down, get a good left back. If we can get Carey as well here, that would be fantastic news because he's a very, very solid striker. Liverpool are apparently interested. 48 million up front. If he makes 20 international caps, he's only made free aged 26. We'll give them 10 million. And if we win the Champions League in the next 3 years, they get 5 million. I hope that we can make this deal happen because I feel like he might be our best option. Havertz, we can delay the deal off. I feel like this is going to be one that we cancel. Either that or we'll get to the end of the episode and we'll be having a dilemma of, you know, which is it worth pursuing. Unfortunately, as I feared, Gaya's expectations in terms of money are a little bit higher than I would like to see. I'm going to give him a really low relegation release clause of just 10 million. Obviously, we shouldn't be getting relegated. Something would have gone very wrong for that to happen. I need to throw in some bonuses here to really sweeten him up, including Team of the Year bonus. International cap bonus. We'll give you £35,000 per international cap appearance. He wanted 140,000 a week and a big signing on fee. Two things I really can't afford. So he's agreed to this deal. It's not a small deal for a left back. The scout report is going to be the big thing, I think, that decides me whether or not we go for him. You can see he's been playing for Valencia the last few years. He's done very, very well for them, to be fair. Not really looked at the Spanish national team. It's probably worth doing so and looking at their youth setup. Obviously, release clauses are mandatory in Spain. It's part of kind of how much a player gets earned determines their release clause. Very often you get really sick regens, and if you can find them early enough, you won't have to worry about their release clauses. Salinas here, for example, what's his release clause? 1.5 million. I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about. This guy looks pretty good. He's only just turned 18. And a release clause of 1.5 million. I think we'll stick in a deal. Why not? I know it might seem illogical. It's like, oh my gosh, Jack, you're just signing more young players. You're never actually going to get, you know, that first generation of players who look really good. This guy looks good. Alejandro, only a 1-point-something million release clause for him as well. I like to keep the conveyor belt of players continuously coming in and out. And the thing is, with these kind of players, such low initial fees that you're in a spot where really you're always going to make money off them. I think Alejandro here might be worth a bid. 1.6 million for him. Let's make sure we are getting a scout report on him as well, if we aren't already. Obviously, with attribute masking off, it does make this easier. What I would normally do is I would just click the entire Spain team with a shift click and just be like, scout all of these players, tell me if anyone's good. I'm still annoyed that we've missed out on Oscar Dominguez. I'm going to be honest. That might prove to be not the biggest mistake, but the error that we regret the most. You can see Marilla has signed for Monaco for 9 million. If I'd known he was going for 9 million, might have been tempted to go in for him. A few other different players here. Abel Ruiz is looking really good in this save. Only 21. Oh, that Dominguez deal, that's going to annoy me because I feel like he's going to haunt us next year. I do worry about it. Let's just have a quick look at this team. Borgia, you can see here, he's going to have a bigger release clause, isn't he? Yeah, 69 million. Real Madrid know what they're doing. This guy is a free transfer. Released by Atleti. Interesting. Let's offer him a trial. Let's see what he's made of. Betis have a pretty good youngster here who's only 19. Still tempted just to shift click all of these players and just scout them just to have them on our radar. I really can't stress how good just going through national teams can be for finding players. This guy looks particularly good. Plays for Bilbao. Release clause of 22 million already. They knew. Wow, you're really good. Okafor. 19. £1.3 million release clause from Valencia. Yeah, go on then. Of course, these players might not want to join us, but hey, it's worth getting scout reports on them. This guy looks really good. You might look at it and go, oh, that marking's a bit of a weakness in his positioning. But of course, one of the individual focuses you can put in training is defensive positioning, which addresses these two. Whereas stuff like heading and tackling, you can't address through, direct individual training options. Anyway, Mario here, I definitely want to sign. I'm going to offer these players bigger wages than you might anticipate that I would do. I'm looking for that golden line. You might remember it, the line that's a very acceptable offer. And that basically means the player's going to join you no matter what. Because what will sometimes happen with these players is the club who they currently play for will go, hey, we'll give you a bigger wage rise to help with the release clause. So yeah, this line here, that's the line you want. Alejandro, not a big demand on him either. Of course, we'll wait for the scout reports to come through before we confirm any of these deals, I think. Although sometimes I just get carried away and hit accept anyway. I'm not as fussed about Alejandro, and I don't really want to pay more than we've just put in for him. Okafor, however, very interested in. Very, very interested in this guy. Really like his mentals. Good work rate as well. Looks like a top quality centre-back. Salinas is going to join us for 1.5 million. We'll delay that, as I mentioned, but I'm pretty confident we're going to sign him because for that cost, you're not going to lose money on him. So this guy's already on £6,500 a week at Valencia's B team, so we are going to have to up his wages. It's just a case of how much I have to up them by. Looks like we are talking in the same ballpark, which is good news as a starting point. Might have to up the signing on fee a little bit, but I'm willing to increase his wage after career league games. I'm a little bit scared that Valencia are going to find a way to keep hold of him, so I'm looking to try and trigger that line if we can. If he plays international caps, we'll give him 28 grand. You know what, we'll give him a big appearance fee. I don't think he's going to play that much for us, at least while he's on this junior contract. I doubt he'll even be on the bench that much for us. I might be paying a little bit over the odds, but I really don't want to lose out on this kid to Valencia because he looks top draw. He looks very, very good. I really like the look of this guy. Not bad passing either, which is not too bad in a modern centre-back. Is it bad that I'm really tempted just to hit accept on this guy because for £1.3 million, it's just worth doing, isn't it? You know, I'm not even going to wait for the scout report. It will now turn out he's the most injury-prone player in the world, but I'm just impatient. I get excited, okay? Forgive me. If we look at him here, I mean, look at that. Great work rate, good potential, obviously good determination. Going to take him a little while to gel into the team. As I mentioned, defensive positioning, perhaps a weakness for him, but we can focus him into that. And I think we'll put him on centre-back and ball-playing defender on defend, I think is what we'll train him in. He's already very athletic. His strength is not too bad either. I wish he didn't argue with officials, but I'm willing to look past that. I mean, feel free to let me know. Am I an idiot for just signing him outright? Should I wait for the scout report to come in? Is he going to be the most injury-prone player in the world? Quite possibly, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. I realise that so far today we've been going for half an hour and we've barely continued, but as I said, I can spend 12 hours doing a pre-season, so I do find it difficult in this series sometimes to just rush through things. Because I just find myself clicking through screens. You know, sometimes I just won't hit continue for ages. What we just did for the Spanish side, for the Spanish national team, I could just end up doing for loads of teams. This guy, Mamadi Keita, looks very good. Consistent performer, very, very quick. French. How much do they want? Okay, well, they want to... He's transfer listed. Why are you transfer listed? I don't know. That was one of our scouts who suggested him. Good job, scouts. He might not have the craziest of potentials, but at that cost, it's just an absolutely no-risk deal. There is no reason not to do it. I did also remember Look, I forgot. We've got David joining us on trial. How does David look? He looks okay, doesn't he? Good leadership, 19. Fickle personality isn't great, but maybe we could make it work. How much does he want a week? This is the bit that scares me, David. Don't hurt me. Apparently the estimated wage amount is between 2.5 and 3.1. I've had this before and the player will ask like 8. Let's see what he asks for. 3.4. I can live with that, but we're not having that yearly wage rise in. Looking for the value in the market. More young players to bloat our reserve team up. I mean, our reserve team in itself is pretty stacked, isn't it? Grange here, you can probably move on at this point, mate. I'm going to be honest. We probably don't need you anymore. Really, I would like to cull down this first team to be kind of an almost kind of realistically sized squad. We are a little bit blessed, I feel like, with players in the final third. And by blessed, I mean we just have too many of them. To the point where I'm going to just try and give away some players because they're taking away some of the coaching attention away from our actual kind of proper good players. This guy Duku looks good, but I mean he looks like he might have already reached his potential. Hopefully we can get some offers for some of these players. You know, really, we would like to get rid of all the players down this end of the scale of ability, although Kenny Lala's down here, which I think is very, very unfair. Unfortunately, a lot of the players down this end of things are also players who actually have a few years left on their contracts. I mean, I'd rather have too big a reserve team than a reserve team that's not big enough. Duku's had some offers. To be fair, they're from pretty big teams, which makes me think maybe I should be reconsidering. Percentage of next sale, 50%. They don't like that, but they've offered me 98k for him. You know what? I'm just going to take it because he's never going to play for us. I feel like these teams going in for him are a little deluded. Maybe I'm selling him massively short, but I'm not wowed by him. I feel like it's probably worth just moving him on. Ferreira, of course, out on loan, as is DJ. How have we done in our testimonials? George Lynn, 4-1 win. Lopez, 7-1 win. Kind of standard. 2 testimonials. It's been a bit of a casual pre-season, really. It's been one where we've not played a ton of games. But that's fine. Player fitness looks pretty good across the board. Maybe players a little bit more tired than I would like to see. Not overly concerned, however. I'm still wondering if Gaya is the right signing. I feel like he is. I feel like if we can get him, great. I wish that Vinicius Jr. was available. Some people were like, why don't you try and offer a swap of him and Depay? Maybe it's not the most mad idea. I thought it was I'm going to be honest, I thought it was a stupid idea because I thought they're never going to ever do that. But desperate times call for potentially desperate measures. Let's see if they would do it. Unacceptable. I mean, we'd be getting massively shortchanged there as well in terms of value for the players. Didn't think it'd be possible. I don't feel like I've ever had that much success with player swaps. Anyway, we're going to stick with Toussaint and Lopez as our kind of vice captain and captain respectively. Kanate is not available for loan this year because he's going to be one of our first choice loan options. Not loan options, first choice, first team options. European Under-19 Championship. Apparently the Russians took over. This guy was the player of the tournament. We should have a quick look through this tournament, really, shouldn't we? They're left... Oh, okay. You're a good left back. How much do you want, Dynamo? Come on. Break my heart gently. 36... It's a little out of my budget. Petrenko, though, did appear in it. Let's have a look at the Euro Under-19 Championships. I don't want to actually look at the best player. I just want to look at the actual tournament itself, which Russia did indeed win. David Fraga apparently did quite well. He plays for Nacional de Madeira. I think that's how you'd say it. He's only 19 and he looks pretty solid, doesn't he? He's in the last year of his contract as well. They might let him go for about what we're bidding here. Is it bad that I'm like hunting out these bargain players still? I know someone's going to be pulling their hair out like, Jack, stop signing young players. I can't help it. It's like my favourite thing in Football Manager is finding talent and flipping it on for money. Norway's goalkeeper apparently was the king of the clean sheets. Then Germany's keeper who plays for Hertha Berlin did pretty well. Let's have a look at player stats. Sweden apparently did okay in the competition. I think the best thing to look at is going to be the average ratings, which I can't see. Why can I not see average ratings? I guess we can just click here. Who are the people with the best average ratings in this competition? This guy, Ben Ali, did pretty well. Benfica right back. I doubt Benfica will sell him for a good price, but it's probably worth just having him on our radar. I wish I could shift click all these players here. I mean, it looks like the Portuguese under-19s team is worth checking out. From the look of things, just from first glance here, they went well in the competition. And I will say now that they definitely have a reputation for having some pretty good players sometimes available for not a massive amount of money. You know what? I feel like the best bet here is actually going to be, we don't need to sign these guys immediately. Let's just shift click and get scout reports and see what our scouts have to say. And I think we'll do the same for the Russia squad because they looked pretty good by all accounts. With their performances in the competition, of course, we've already got Petrenko in, so maybe we could get Petrenko a friend. Of course, we are going to have quite a big backlog of scout reports coming in from all the different players we're looking at, but as long as we get the Gaya deal done, or a left-back done before the start of the actual league season, I'll be fine. Wallace out for 1 to 3 days. That shouldn't be the end of the world. Famous last words. But it shouldn't be. Liverpool have made a bid for Gaya. That's going to really wreck things, isn't it? Alright, David, you can join us. Keita, you can join us. Alejandro, I'm not sure about you yet. Barca make a bid for Coman. It's literally less than what we paid for him a year ago, so of course I'm going to reject it. We paid 72 million for him. They've bid 62. Coman wants to discuss personal matters. What's it going to take to keep you here? I'm going to tell them that I need a reasonable bid. 120 million. He wants 80, right? 100 million. 85. Like you're being unreasonable here. Okay, 94 million. If they bid 94 million for Coman, we'll sell him. I probably would sell him for that price as well because it would allow us to reinvest quite a lot. Similar to the Fekir deal, you know, I could bring in someone like Kai Havertz, there'd be money left over. I feel like we could definitely do a lot with that kind of money. But I don't know if a team will bid that much. I feel like we've got this weird, what I want to be like anti-magnet ability. You know, some clubs seem to attract the big bids. We just seem to get lowballed by clubs and no one ever quite reaches the valuations that we put on our players and that they are happy to put on themselves. Pineda has made a move. I really like this guy. He's really good in FM. I used him this year on a Norwich save that I did in my own times. He's very, very good, is Pineda. There was also a Mexican centre-back who I signed. I can't remember his name. I want to find him now, because actually, if we did talk about the possibility, you might remember, of, well, losing Wallace. And what we do in that situation was a bit of an unknown. I'm trying to remember the name of the centre-back. Was it this guy? It wasn't. Oh, this is really going to annoy me now. I can't remember the player's name. Nope, it's gone. How's Diego Lyon done this save? He's not developed that much, has he, the 21-year-old? I've seen him become a world beater in some saves. It's always the thing I find most interesting about FM saves in a weird way is how Sometimes players just develop incredibly, and then other times it just feels like the players just kind of amount to nothing. You know, like the same player can have a completely different career. I guess that's kind of how it is in real life. We just don't know it because we only get one run at the simulation. The player I was thinking of is this guy, Montez. He doesn't actually look that good in this save either. Obviously, dynamic potential abilities, save to save. Sometimes when you have a world beater in one save and then in the next save, he's just a bit underwhelming. De Jong is going to go to Angers. I like that a lot. I don't want to loan out Grange here. I want to sell him. I want him gone. Out of my face. Havertz has got a high recommendation level. You might have noticed there. Our scouts are throwing out a few different suggestions for players that we could look at. Ferran Torres apparently is unhappy and wants first team football. Doesn't really tick any boxes for us. Charlie Musonda playing for Watford, a player who was like really hotly tipped at one point to do really well. I remember reading a story about how Chelsea signed both of his brothers in order to get Charlie to join them. Hasn't really worked out, has it? In hindsight. There's a few players here who are available on frees. He's not that great, is he? And then there's this guy as well. You look very good playing for Benfica. It's Villar. I must admit, not familiar with this guy. But if they have an asking price in a region of what he's valued at, he could be a good backup goalkeeper. They say the bid's unacceptably has a £42 million release clause. I can take the hint. So we've got the Trophée des Champions. I mean, we all come here for the French pronunciations, I know. Marin playing for Genoa. Declining. That's not what I want to see. You're meant to be becoming the world's best player, Marin. Of course, we have got a lot of players out on loan now, but I kind of like that. Especially because a lot of them are, you know, the big first-team players for the future. Okafor, right? I think Okafor could be a really low-key good bit of business. £1.3 million paid for him. He looks good. Did he actually make any senior appearances for Valencia? He made one. I mean, that's pretty good going for a player of his age, if you ask me. Gabriel Jesus has been removed from our shortlist. I mean, if we had a bottomless pit of money, I feel like he would be the striker that I would want to sign, but I feel like a left-back is higher priority. I am worried that we might end up not getting the player that we want here. Gazal has been sold to Sampdoria from Leicester. Do we get any money from this deal? We got 190,000. I mean, we're rich. We're rich, everyone. Jose Gaya, I feel certain now that he's going to end up going to Liverpool. I think they've got more of a draw. They can probably offer him more money. That does mean I need a plan B. I mean, this is going to get to a point where I just end up signing Havertz, isn't it? Di Lorenzo. See, Di Lorenzo's an option. He's 20. He's a left back. The only issue is his potential might not be all that great. He could be a player who's peaked quite early. Just looking at the Argentina under-20s here. They've got good players, haven't they, the Argentina under-20s? I mean, I say that like it's a surprise. Argentine and Brazilian regions are always good. You know what? We'll just do another mass scout job on these guys. I know some people mentioned, I think, Almada and also Almeida. Almada, just really not that great in terms of physicals. The other thing is, I've seen this. I've seen people recommend a few different players. It's always worth considering the fact that potential ability, as I mentioned, is dynamic, and it's not dynamic in the sense that it changes during a save. I should explain for people who maybe aren't familiar with this, but basically in Football Manager, players have a current ability. It's a bit like an overall in FIFA. It's a hidden number, but it basically determines their attributes, and then it is capped off at a potential ability, which is the highest value that current ability can ever get to, the overall score. And these are two values that are hidden in the game. But with a lot of younger players in Football Manager, because obviously in real life we can't know exactly how good players are going to be, they have attribute ranges. And what this means is that out of a score of 1 to 200, 1 being the worst non-league player ever and 200 being the best potential player ever, players will sometimes be given negative values for their potential. The values themselves are arbitrary, but for example, some players will have a -9 potential ability, which means that their potential will be between 150 and 180. And the difference between those two values from one side of the scale to the other is massive, particularly at this level of play. That's the difference between one of the best players in world football at 180 and at 150 being, one of the better players in the division. And so sometimes I'll see people say, hey, this player was an absolute beast for me, you've got to sign him. And it'll be a player who I know just because I like to look through the database. I find it interesting. I like numbers. I know that guy has like a attribute range, and so this person might be having a really good experience with this player themselves, but that might not be representative of how good he could be for me, if that makes sense. So I do value your guys' suggestions, but sometimes I know I can be quick to disregard them, and sometimes it's because maybe I've looked at them already in the save, and I know that they might not even necessarily have a low potential ability role, but they've just not excelled how they could in someone else's save because their ability is capped off a lot lower. I hope that makes sense. I realise that's an element of the game that I don't know. I always feel weird because when I first started doing YouTube, I always thought about the numbers and stuff of Football Manager way more and treated it more like a game. Obviously I worked as a tester on Football Manager as well, so when you get that exposure, I guess, to the under the hood stuff, you kind of look at it slightly differently, the game. In recent years, I've been really trying to enjoy the game as more of a realistic simulation, he says with air quotes, and worry less about the numbers of it all. So I'm not as knowledgeable as perhaps I have been in previous years. You can see Gaya has elected, unsurprisingly, to go to Valencia. So far in today's episode, we've gone forward 47 minutes. We've gone forward about a week. We've signed no left back, no first team player, and just a load of young players who have good potential. So it's gone well. It's gone blooming fantastically. Some people recommended Wagner, man, and that was actually, is it Vargo or is it? There's a player who plays at Hamburg, and I can't think of how you say his name. Is it I'm going to just go to Hamburg. That would make more sense, wouldn't it, to go to Hamburg? Let's have a look. I'm going to assume that they sold him on already. Let's have a look. Yeah, they did. They sold him to Dortmund for 24 million. He's not even that great. I mean that in the nicest possible way. He's not a bad player, but he's not an improvement on what we already have. Another example of one of those players I've seen people suggest a lot. But you can see in this save, he's not turned out to be the world beater he might be in your own. Federico Rica. Interesting option. Can't say I'm familiar with this guy either. Uruguayan. How does he compare to Mendy? That's the question to be answered. Not as good athletically, but better defensively. Not as good going forward. See, I don't really want to spend £40 million on a left-back who doesn't massively improve us. It just doesn't feel like it's worth it. Oh, that's so annoying. So annoying what's happened with them managing to get him. Liverpool managing to get Gaya, because that was kind of the player I was banking on getting. I feel like for the kind of player we want at left back, we are going to have to maybe not break the bank wage-wise, but pay them more a week than I would otherwise like to. How good Zeka these days? See, he's really good going forward, but defensively he's not particularly good. Ayrton Lucas of Shangang. See, he's a really good left back for a player I've never heard of. Ben Chilwell, not as good in this database as perhaps he is in the winter update. Of course, we are playing on the kind of start of year database as well here. Oh, it's a blooming dilemma, isn't it? They have kind of royally screwed me by taking my option there. How long's Robertson out for? How are they going to keep Robertson happy as well? Do I just go for Andy Robertson and see if they'll sell him me for cheap? Okay, I wasn't really expecting them just to accept it outright, but now I have to just submit the offer out of morbid curiosity. What kind of injury problems has he had, if any? Oh, okay, he broke his leg last year and was out for 5 months. Oh, let's see what his wage demands are. I feel bad for Moreno. He's just been followed around by Andy Robertson. But with them signing their new left-back option, maybe Robertson is a pretty good option. Maybe. I mean, who else have Liverpool got at left-back? Now I'm curious. Oh, they've got Gulam as well. Okay, wow. Okay, they're really overstacked in the left-back department, aren't they? The thing is, Robertson's... I was about to say he's only 27. That's still relatively young. Trent would be the player who I'd really want. But I don't have £222 million lying around, unfortunately. I wish I did. That would be really convenient. So Diaz is going to go on loan to Juventus as a rotation option. I think that's a really good loan spell for him. Excited to see how he gets on. I'm now wondering how much money Robertson's going to want a week. It's less than what we would have had to pay for Gaya. Let's try and lower it a little bit. He only wants to sign a 4-year deal. He's 30. He's 27, so he'll be 31 when the contract's up. So maybe this is in our interest. I'm going to try lowering the wages down to 80k per week. I'm going to play very hardball here and see if he'll take it. I think we're just going to have to match his current weekly salary at Liverpool of 86. It's not a small amount of money, but he is very, very good. We compared him to Mendy. We should probably also just quickly compare him to Moreno. Moreno is going to trounce him in the physical department. But Robertson is just a lot more complete player. The injuries are a concern, but look at his form over the last 3 years when he's been fit. I guess the pressure is going to be now trying to move on Moreno without upsetting him. Let's offer him out for 40 million and see if we get any nibbles. I don't think we'll play the PSG game today. I want to know what you guys have to say in the comments as much as anything. Lopez, can you convince Moreno he's not being forced out? You can't. I can't find a space for my tactical plans. How will you know if you don't give me a chance? You've got to go. Okay, he's not happy. He's not the most influential member in the dressing room, so I'm not overly concerned. I still feel like Memphis needs to move. Let's offer him out, transfer listed for 47 million. No one wants either of them. Although apparently West Ham are interested in Memphis Depay, which is an interesting option. No idea if he'd be interested in that. I'm going to try delaying Havertz again, but I feel like that's probably going to collapse. Because we just keep delaying it by a week and delaying it by a week. We need to register players for the upcoming season, but of course the French League is one of the leagues with the most relaxed registration rules in the world. You can just register anyone whenever you want. Apparently I've still not registered Shadas because I'm an idiot. Right, where was Shadas in the list? Am I blind? I am blind. Right, get back in the team, Shadas. Keita's joined us. I feel like for the tiny fee that we've paid, even if he doesn't improve a lot, we've got a player who could be good longer term for us. Salinas, do we want to sign him? I thought he was going to be way better than that. This is why you should always scout the players before you confirm the signings. I'm going to cancel that deal right there. And I think with that, that's going to bring us to the end of today's episode. As I said, I wanted to keep it under an hour. We're at 55 minutes there or thereabouts, so it feels like a good time to end things off. I do hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Obviously, a more rambly one. We didn't get through a great deal in the last week. A bit more hunting out for some diamonds in the rough. A little bit of regen hunting as well. Everyone's favourite things. You can see lots of scout reports coming in on different players that were eyeing up in the left-back department. I mean, we'll keep our eyes out for any that really stand out and have high recommendations. But looking through the recommendation level of a lot of these players we've been scouting, underwhelmed is probably the best word to describe how I feel about them. Anyway, we've got a game to kick off tomorrow's episode. Please do let me know what you made of today's episode in terms of the moves we've made. Is Andy Robertson the right signing to make? I think £55 million, it's not a small amount of money for a 27-year-old, but he is going to be very much in his prime. He does look very, very good, doesn't he? And despite his long-term injury, I feel like it's a risk worth taking. His wages as well aren't that crazy. £86,000 a week. It will make him one of the bigger earners at the club, but certainly not a player that completely breaks the bank. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up everything from me today. Let me know what you thought of everything down below. Drop a like if you've enjoyed. I'll see you again next time. It is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.